Hello everyone, welcome back. I am Kris. This is The Reality of Jinn in the Qur'an and Sunnah by Dr. Yasir. Hopefully he'll mention the Kaaba. I just love the way he says that. This video was sponsored by Mohamed, who says that even though you probably want to, you should never high-five a jinn. That's a direct quote that he never said, but we're attributing it to him now. You can click that thumbs up for me. That helps out tremendously. Subscribe to the channel. That helps me out also. You can subscribe to his channel too. I'm not telling you not to. And then last but not least, if you want to donate to the channel, sponsor a video, I have a thanks button somewhere down here or it's somewhere over here. Don't report. And then simply donate. Tell me the video in the comments. I'll throw a heart on it. And then I'll do my best to get it done. I am behind. I was ahead. So I took 2 weeks off and I was ahead, so I didn't have to record for 2 weeks. Fortunately, because I was working 60 hours. So this week coming up, I have 6 videos done for next week. This is a Saturday. Yeah. Hold on. Here we go. This is a Saturday. 5 o'clock, trying to knock out a couple of these. So, and then next week I'm on vacation for Christmas, so I will not be recording, but I will be releasing videos, but I probably will have to record. I don't know. I might have somebody with me, not in the video per se, but they're going to stay over. So we'll see. Maybe they'll be in the video. I don't know. We'll figure that out. Who knows? So, until next time. Have a good day. Have a good night, everybody. Video 1 done. All right, let's get started on this video. Oh, and it didn't even start anyways. Oh, yeah, it did start. So this video was because I had done a video on the jinn before. And apparently a lot of backlash from people who did not quite enjoy that video for... just go back and look at in the comment section. So this one was given to me as a more realistic, is that the word I'm thinking? Anyways, I gotta hit this. All right.
Bismillah, before we begin, a number of people asked me about age limits and whatnot. Again, parents, it's up to you. Obviously, this topic is not one of a, explicit nature in the sensual sense. It is one that is a little bit possibly scary to those who might so be disinclined or inclined. So that's your decision as parents. It's not something that I can dictate upon you. It's you know your child better, so it's up to you. I'm not going to intentionally give any horror stories. It's rather an academic talk about the reality in light of the Qur'an and Sunnah. So really it's up to you about the age limit. With that, let us begin. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man walah. Amma ba'd. It is something that I find very interesting that each and every culture in the world, each and every civilization...
Forgot to say, this is a long video, hour 54. This will probably be broken down into 5 videos. I think it was 5 videos. Give me a second. Okay, sorry about that. So yeah, the video will be broken down into 5 videos. It's going to be roughly 22 to 23 minutes, depending on what he's... There's a jinn. Depending on what he's talking about, I might let it go a little bit longer. I don't want to just cut him off in the middle of whatever point he's making. And if I feel like he's about to make a point and we're close to it, I might cut it short. You understand the way that everything rolls. So.
Has these notions, myths, superstitions of entities that exist beyond the human world. This is universal. No civilization, primitive or modern, advanced or in the jungle, doesn't matter, exists, except that they believe in something beyond this physical world. And they have different names for them. In English, we have the demons and the ghosts and whatnot. And in every culture and civilization, I just came from Norway, and they have, this thing that comes out of the woods, and they will take you and this and that. Now we call them in English trolls or goblins. But the notion is there that there's some.
Let me see if we can get some better quality here. Nope, that's the max. Okay, sorry.
Something that lives in beyond. And they're very scary, and they're harmful. And there's something you cannot control, but they control you. And it is interesting, you go to the native Indians, they believe this. You go to the Aborigines, they believe this. You go to, even in this day and age, we're living in the 21st century America. Look at Hollywood and how many movies are dedicated to the supernatural, the possessions, to, The Exorcist and its, genre. All of this to this day. And this is, we are supposed to be the pinnacle of civilization. But this notion...
Sorry, he just made me rethink of something. Give me just a second. He said The Exorcist. Okay. Apologize when he was talking about the Exorcist. So I was... Stop. I was talking about this before. There was a book that I read about The Exorcist. It's a small book, right? It's called Devil Came to St. Louis. The True Story of the 1949 Exorcism. It's by Troy Taylor. He's a haunted, he loves telling haunted stories and stuff like that. But it's a quick read. But yeah, he talks about that. Oh, really? Really? We gonna do this now? Thank you. I'm really starting to hate this setup. There's the house. Be calm. Calm down. This thing is just giving me more and more problems, and I don't know why. Might have to invest in a whole new webcam. I have no idea. Anyways, it's a really interesting book, but he talked about the thing, the exorcism. Back to the video, I apologize.
Of some entities or some realities living in worlds that are simultaneous to us, but yet not quite our world. Right? This is something that is ingrained in all of humanity. From our perspective, of course, this shows us that the reason why all cultures agree is because it is real. Right? From our perspective, we say the reason why each and every civilization believes in spiritual entities, and they are generally speaking spiritual entities, ghosts or demons or ghouls or whatnot, they believe in them because they are real, and these societies experience them. These societies experience them, and there was I don't know if it's still ongoing or not, there's a number of series on the sci-fi channels and other learning networks and whatnot, in which allegedly they interview live people, about what has happened to them. The haunting of such and such. And the reality is, now these are educated people, you listen to them, many of them say, I never believed in this stuff. I was raised as a very, modern, very educated person. I never believed this could happen. But then what are you going to do when, XYZ begins to happen, right? And from our perspective, we look at all of this, we read all of this, and it fits in perfectly with our worldview. And in all honesty, for the believer, for the mu'min, all of these stories of the other nationalities and other groups should actually increase his or her iman. That in reality, this is a sign of our iman, of our religion being true. One of the signs of our religion being true, it explains even the supernatural and the paranormal. It explains in complete logic and rationality. When you study the characteristics of the jinn, and you see what is happening in other societies and even in our society, everything is explained. So I find this to be very fascinating and interesting. And also, before we begin, we're still in the introduction, realize this is a part 1. There will be at some unspecified time in the future a part 2, which will be definitely more technical and perhaps, I don't want to use that term, perhaps maturity would be more, discretion is definitely going to be applied there. And it will talk about, part 2 will talk about black magic and possession and what, that's going to be part 2. So part 1 is really not about that type of stuff. Part 1 is we're just talking about the reality of the jinn in accordance with the Qur'an and Sunnah. Now, what exactly does the term jinn mean? Where does it come from? The Arabic word jinn comes from a root that implies something that is concealed from the eyes, something that is hidden. And so there are so many words in the Arabic language from this root, all of which imply hiding. For example, a shield in Arabic is called mijan, because you're hiding yourself behind the shield. An embryo, what is an embryo called in Arabic? Janeen. The embryo is called a janeen because it is hidden in the womb of the mother. The verb jannah without the ta marbuta, just the verb jim noon with the shadda, jannah. The verb jannah without the ta marbuta, not the noun jannah, but the verb jannah, means this, yarhamkumullah, the spreading of the night, the enveloping of the night so that you can't see anything. In the Qur'an, Allah says about Ibrahim, فَلَمَّا جَنَّ عَلَيْهِ اللَّيْلُ رَأَى كَوْكَبًا. When the night jannah, he saw the stars. The meaning of jannah here means the darkness enveloped it. He couldn't see anything. And that is why also jannah, the noun, is a garden that is enclosed with a wall. You can't see inside it. So Jannah with a noun, the garden that has been enclosed by a wall, therefore you cannot see inside it. And madness in Arabic is jinnah with a kasra. Am yaquluna bihi jinnah. Do they say our Prophet ﷺ has jinnah in him? And jinnah is madness. And from jinnah we get majnoon. So a person is mad because his intellect seemingly disappears. Because the meaning of Jannah always is hidden. So Majnoon, the one whose intellect or whose rationality does not exist, or at least you don't see it, it's disappeared. And this is, all of these terms come from the same root, and that is to hide or to be hidden. And that is why the term jinn is also applied to this entity, because it is an entity that is completely hidden from the eyes of men. We do not see them. They are in a world that is beyond our physical world that we inhabit. And Allah Azza wa Jal mentions jinn in the Qur'an, and our Prophet talks a little bit about the jinn. We don't have that many ahadith about the jinn, and therefore the fact of the matter is we have to take what we can from the Qur'an and Sunnah. That's going to take it as a fact. The rest is folklore and legend. And we don't base our religion on folklore and legend. But there's no harm in narrating certain things that we think we know about the jinn. There's no harm in narrating things that we believe we know about the jinn. And I will always differentiate between what is Qur'an and Sunnah and what is folklore or things that we might assume in our times. That we have to be very clear here. If Allah says it, end of story. We take it as fact. However, if it's something we discover upon ourselves or seems to be a reality, then we will say this is a theory, this is a possibility, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. So, what does Allah tell us about the jinn? What does our Prophet tell us about the jinn? Of the things we know about the jinn is that they were created before men. The Qur'an is very explicit. The Qur'an is very explicit that
were the jinn made out of fire? So people were molded out of clay. Were jinn made out of fire? Or am I mixing that up with something else? We're about to find out.
before we existed, the jinn existed. Before Allah created Adam, He had created the jinn. Allah says in the Qur'an, وَلَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ مِنْ صَلْصَالٍ مِنْ حَمَإٍ مَسْنُونٍ. We created man from a type of hard clay, rock that had become rock solid, that you could knock on it and it would reverberate. وَالْجَانَّ خَلَقْنَاهُ مِنْ قَبْلُ مِنْ نَارِ السَّمُونِ. And the Jan, the plural of jinn is Jan. And the Jan we had created before that from, now memorize the Arabic, nar as-samum. So a nar, that is samum. What is samum? We'll come to it. So this is one adjective that Allah says. We created jinn from a nar, from a fire that is samum. Also the Qur'an.
Video's over. I nailed it. I'm going home. I am home. See you guys tomorrow.
Quran mentions that Allah Azza wa Jal created jinn from min marijin min nar, from marij of nar. So samum and marij, keep these adjectives, we'll come back to it. So Allah says that we created the jinn min marijin min nar, and Allah says we created jinn from nar is samum. These are the two main adjectives given. Of course, nar is in both, and sometimes Allah says we created jinn from nar. Sometimes He says from nar is-samum. Sometimes He says from marij min nar. Surah Al-Rahman, that khalaq al-janna min marij min nar. We created jinn from marij of nar. So these are really the main descriptions. Our Prophet ﷺ, exact same phrase in Sahih Muslim. Our Prophet ﷺ said, خُلِقَتِ الْمَلَائِكَةُ مِن نُور. The angels have been created from nur. وَخُلِقَتِ الْجَانِ مِن مَارِجٍ مِن نَار. And the jinn have been created from marij of fire. وَخُلِقَتِ الْإِنسان, or خُلِقَ Adam, مِمَّا وُصِفَ لَكُمْ. And Adam has been created in a manner that has been clearly described for you, because the description of the creation of Adam is far more explicit than the description of the creation of the jinn. We don't have how the jinn were created. We simply have what they were created from. And of course, of the evidences that the jinn were created from fire is the well-known incident of Iblis and Adam. What did Iblis say? أَنَا خَيْرٌ مِّنْهُ خَلَقَتَنِي مِن نَارٍ وَخَلَقَتَهُ مِن طِينٍ. And scholars point out the first racist was Iblis. The first racist was Iblis, because Iblis was the one who thought, I am better because of where I come from.
That's Satan, right? I was like, what? And then when he said that, okay.
I am better because of what I have been used to be created by. Right? So he thought he's better simply because he's created from nar. But the point is, we don't want to go into that tangent. The point is, Iblis very clearly says, خَلَقْتَنِي مِن نَار. You created me from nar, وَخَلَقْتَهُ مِن طِين. And you created him from طِين. So what does marij mean and what does samum mean? These are the two main adjectives that occur in the Qur'an about the creation. As for marij, marij means to merge or to combine. مَرَجَ الْبَحْرَيْنِ يَلْتَقِيَانِ. The two oceans are interweaving and mixing. Maraja. So maraja means to mix and to weave together, to flow out and to weave as you go forward. So marijin min nar, from a mixture of fires, from different types of fires. And Ibn Abbas commented that the marij of the nar is the corner of the flames, that you have all the different colors, the red and the green and the blue and the orange and the yellow. And if you look at the fire or the flame, right, if you have a very large fire, this you cannot see on a match, you can see it on a larger fire. If you have a large fire, the periphery of the fire, it has all of these bizarre colors, very interesting colors. Ibn Abbas said that is what they were created from, the marij, the very ending of the fire. As for the word samum, samum has been understood in two different ways. One meaning is that samum is a smokeless fire. It is a fire that is raw heat without any dukhan, without any smoke. And that is valid because the jinn don't have smoke. They are created from a fire that doesn't have we don't see the smoke, we don't see the ashes coming down, right? So the jinn have been created from a smokeless fire. Nar is samum. This is one interpretation. And another interpretation, Ibn Abbas said, samum is the light of the lightning. This is a different type of light, not the light of the match. This is the light of the lightning. And in reality, this is the same as the first meaning, because the lightning, does it have smoke? No, it doesn't have smoke, right? And so the light of lightning is a smokeless light, right? Now, this is now Qur'an here. I'm going to add my own theory, take it or leave it. And this is not a fact, this is my theory, my understanding of my own understanding of the Qur'an and Sunnah and my own interactions with this species. In my humble opinion, it is as if the jinn have been created from what we call energy, what physicists call energy. They are on the energy spectrum. And this demonstrates when non-Muslim ghost hunters, if you see the documentaries or TLC channel or whatever, right? When they go to a house and they want to see are there any haunted spirits, what do they do? And these are people that have never studied the Qur'an and Sunnah. They don't believe in the Qur'an and Sunnah. But experience has taught them that you can detect on the electromagnetic scale, you can detect on these, they have their counters that have energy readings in them, right? And also,
there's also some that will say that, oh, you know, I had a fully charged battery and my batteries are drained. I've had a couple incidents where I had a battery that on my phone, it was like 76%, and I was at some places that were, they had, this is in Alton, Illinois. Actually, that guy Troy Taylor does a ghost tour in Alton, Illinois. One of the most haunted small towns in all of America, if not the world. And a lot of stuff happened there. So we did this tour there. And the phone just... And we were charging it in our room that night. Plugged in, turned off, turned it on the next day, and it was like 12%. That's all it charged overnight. And I remember saying something was feeding off my phone energy, just jokingly. And other people were like, yeah, yeah. And I'm just like, oh, okay, that's odd.
Other things prove this as well. And if you look at the characteristics of the Qur'an and Sunnah, of the jinn, these are the characteristics of energy. Going at the speed of light, not having a particular form, right? Being able to do, going through walls, as we will talk about in a while. This is energy. Our radio waves right now, our internet, our phone waves. They're coming through the walls here. There's a type of energy on the spectrum. And therefore, if you look at marijim min nar, nar is samum, what exactly is lightning? It's a type of energy, right? So Allah knows best. This is my interpretation, my understanding. And also, not to give you, by the way, I'm not going to give you too many horror stories. I don't want to do that. If you, those of you who came for that, I'm sorry, but this is not the campfire jinn night where we smoke marshmallows and we have the campfire jinn stories. We'll do that maybe sometime for the young men and women so that they can be really scared, but not right now, inshallah. But in the course of the lecture, I'll give a few stories here and there. So of the modern things that we know of, is that there are unexplained lights that many cameras have captured around the world. And this is a well-known phenomenon. You find it on YouTube all the time. And you look at these things, and sometimes once in a while it'll even make local news networks, right? That there was a strange light over this restaurant, and the camera captured it, and they put it on the local news station. If there's nothing else to show, they might as well show something like this. And you see this, I mean, it's in this land and in other lands. And when you look at these things, by and large, what are they? They're orbs of light, just floating around here and there, and they just pause here, go there, and then they just go away. And therefore, the camera is capturing a spectrum of energy, which is light. It's capturing something like this, and then we as human beings are aghast. What is this? But in reality, it's nothing. It's simply, wandering jinn, whatever, and it does not realize it's being videotaped or whatnot. And therefore, the camera captures this. All of this kind of adds, if you like, credence to the fact that the jinn are a type of energy. But if you want to stick to the Qur'an and Sunnah, the Qur'an and Sunnah says, marijim min nar, and nar is samum, which in reality is also energy, because what is fire and what is lightning other than a type of energy? But nonetheless, this explains certain things. Now, we also know from the Qur'an indirectly and from the Sahaba directly that the jinn inhabited the earth before Adam did. They were created before Adam, that's clear. They inhabited the earth before Adam. This is not explicit in the Qur'an, it is implicit, it's implied. Where is it implied? In the story of the creation of Adam. When Allah said that I am going to create a new creation, the malaika said, أَتَجْعَلُ فِيهَا مَنْ يُفْسِدُ فِيهَا وَيَسْفِكُ الدِّمَاءَ وَنَحْنُ نُسَبِّحُ بِحَمْدِكَ وَنُقَدِّسُ لَكَ. Are you going to put in this world an entity that will cause blood to be shed and cause great injustices. Why would you do this when we are here praising you and worshipping you? And Ibn Abbas and others, they make tafsir of this and they say, the malaika knew the reality of men because of the reality of jinn. How would the malaika know that men will kill one another? That men will cause fasad and fitna in the earth? How would they know that? When the malaika have never seen men. Because Allah had already created the jinn. And the jinn was the first creation on this earth that shed blood of each other unjustly. And they went to war. Ibn Abbas has a long story of a civil war between the jinn and the malaika had to get involved and basically curb them and stop the civil war. And so they realized that the jinn have the power to disobey Allah, and this is what happens. Now Allah says, I'm creating another creation that also has the power to disobey me. So the malaika were like, basically one is enough. Why would you want another? Why would you create another creation? And here we are. And Allah said, I have wisdom that you do not have. Therefore, this means that the Qur'an is indirect, the Sahaba are explicit. That in this world, there were jinns before Adam alayhi salam came down. The jinns don't seem to have a particular shape or form. Classical scholars debated this, and the Sharia is quiet on this point. So the Sharia does not say what is the original form of a jinn. But in my humble opinion, since the Sharia is silent, I give you my opinion, and this opinion is not just new, it is going back in the past. Scholars have differed what is the real shape of the jinn, and the reality is the question is absurd. To have a real shape, you have to have a physical body. If you don't have a physical body, you don't have a real shape. So when we ask the question, a lot of us ask, what does a jinn really look like? The response, the question is only valid when the entity has physical structure, flesh or blood or three-dimensional or whatnot. You don't ask, what does energy look like? Energy doesn't look like anything, right? You don't ask, what does energy look like? There is no original structure. Our eyes cannot see the reality of energy. Can we see these waves being bombarded? Can we see the microwave? Can we see? We don't see, it doesn't register. So, in my humble opinion, and this is the position of many classical scholars, there is no original structure of the jinn. The jinn can't have an original structure. The jinn are simply as they are. They are in a world that doesn't have structure. And that's why for our minds it's difficult to encompass, to come across. They don't occupy the three-dimensional world that we live in. They have a totally different parallel universe, quite literally. You know, they are here, yet they're not here. They are in this world, yet they are in a separate world apart from our eyes. So the jinn don't actually have any one shape. And this also explains culturally another phenomenon. What is that? Every single civilization and culture has a different perception of their demons and ghosts. Every single society and culture has a different shape of the evil things that haunt in the world beyond. Think about it, right? We have our shapes, the Eastern methodologies and religions have theirs. The ancient, again I'm thinking of Scandinavia as well. If you go there, they have a totally different structure. The Japanese have their own. Every single civilization, which shows what? That there is no one unified structure that these beings appear on. However, one thing about them is all common, and that is that these entities in all cultures are terrifying to look at, which means they purposely take on forms that terrify because they don't have original forms. They purposely take on forms that terrify. So, knowledge is power. Knowledge is power. Knowing that they don't have an original structure and they're simply putting on this because in your cultural memory this is what should terrify you. Honestly, this should give you power, and that's the whole point of today's lecture, by the way, inshallah, is to minimize this fear. The true mu'min is no more scared of the jinn than he's scared of a snake or a scorpion or something like this. And as your iman rises, then even that will become less, right? This is a fact, take this. Inshallah, by the end, we will work on this issue. But knowledge is power. Simply knowing, that's not how the jinn really looks. There is no real look of the jinn. Simply knowing that this structure that the jinn is looking at, or looking like, it's meant to terrify you based on your own cultural knowledge, right? It's not something that the jinn actually looks like. So in our Western culture, we have the two horns coming out, or so dark red eyes or whatever. This is like this, right? In other cultures, it'll have a tail coming out. In other cultures, it'll be like a troll. In other cultures, so each one has its own. But the point is that the jinns, they're simply playing with you. They're simply wanting to terrify. And imagine, if you're not as a child, as an adult, imagine if another adult is trying to terrify you. In front of you, he puts on one mask and another. Which one is going to make you scared? You would honestly think this guy is, what do you think, I'm a kid or something? That's exactly how the mu'min feels when the jinn tries to terrify. I hope that Allah Azza wa Jalla saves you from ever seeing one, right? But in reality, some people, the jinn does terrify, either in the dream, which is more common, or once in a while, very rarely, in real life.
All right, we're going to go ahead and stop it there. That was part 1. I had to move the thing back. I think that's the issue. I think that's probably what my problem was. That and my lights. 2 weeks of not recording really just threw me off. And then another 2 weeks, I've done 6 videos. This is 7. So I'm off. All right, this is part 1. We'll be back with part 2. But until then, have a good day. Have a good jinn. That made no sense at all. Night.